speaker of today's session, Mr. Arjun Menon, sir. He has an he has an blockchain architect and trainer at Blocklogy EduTech Private Limited and has his expertise in HTML, JavaScript, CSS, blockchain, Git, MySQL, MongoDB, etc. He has taken up various certification courses. Now, I would like to welcome our speaker and request him to start the session. Welcome, sir.
Hi all. Good morning, everyone. Hello.
Hello, good morning, sir. Now you can start the session.
Okay. So today's session, before starting, you all are here to discuss or learn something more about blockchain. Some of you might already know or you might have heard of blockchain in simple terms. So let me share my screen and I'll present you some important slides that I have prepared for this session. Is everyone able to view my screen or see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as I said, we are here to discuss about more about blockchain technology. What lies behind the blockchain technology and what is the theory behind blockchain. So let me start today's session, and this session will have the important parts, which is I'll be explaining what is blockchain. I'll be comparing different database systems with this blockchain. And for further uses and for future references, you might be know you might want to know some terminologies that is used inside the blockchain, and we'll conclude the morning session with some variants of blockchain and the evolution of blockchain technology. So first of all, I'll introduce the blockchain to all of you as a distributed decentralized database system. You might be thinking what a database stands out or from all of the database that we normally use in an organization. The blockchain can be described as a data structure that holds transactional records. As of now, just understand that it is a database system. We'll get into more details in the sessions. So it can be described as a data structure that holds transactional records, which stands out by ensuring security, transparency, and decentralization. So these main 3 points, which is a distributed, decentralized database system. That is the simple words in which we can describe blockchain. You can also think blockchain as a chain of records. So in the word itself, we have chain and block. So we can take the blockchain as a chain of records stored in the form of blocks. So consider blockchain as a chain of blocks which have information inside those blocks. In like a normal database, they share information among each other. The blockchain can also be considered as a chain of blocks which store information, but it have one peculiar important feature, that is it is completely decentralized. That means it is not controlled by anyone among the system. If I am in the database system or if I am using the database system, I am not in control of the database system. What I can do is enter data into the database system. While in a regular organizational database, I might be having the power to write into the database, read the database, edit the database. I might be having every single option or power to do whatever in the database. But in the blockchain, as we said in the simplest terms, it is a decentralized distributed database. So what that is the important thing which makes blockchain different. But you might be thinking why we need blockchain. We have already a database system which is used in every organization as of now. But why we need a special blockchain database? In this current world, we need people to contribute, or we need everyone to come to a single roof which they contribute and collaborate each other. So, but there needs to be some rules and theories to make them work along to each other. In such a situation, we need to know that the contracts that lies behind the technology is shared among everyone, can be accessed by the everyone, and it is clearly understandable by everyone. So such a system where relations are clearly documented, it is clearly understandable and consistently recorded. So or that is the particular area which we need blockchain. I can describe you a simple example. In supply chain management nowadays, this is not a real life use cases. I'm describing a simple example for you. In supply chain management, that is transit of parcels, couriers, and all, we don't know the exact location, or we don't have any control over that. So, what happens when we inject blockchain into that? If we are a part of the blockchain of that particular supply chain management blockchain, we have the ability, or we have the privilege to access the whole data from where the parcel started and where it is currently. So this is a simple example, not a real life use cases. It is implemented in supply chain management, but I'm just talking in brief about the supply chain management example of blockchain. So about blockchain, you can consider it more like a spreadsheet in the sky. It's like an Excel sheet which is represented inside the technological world. So where it acts as a shared ledger. Ledger means a book of transactions where we record things. So it is moreover like a shared public ledger of transactions with which anyone can inspect the contents and having no separate entity controls. Are you following me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So as we discussed, it is a shared public ledger where everyone can inspect, or anyone can inspect the entire transactions happening inside, and it doesn't have a separate entity control. Everyone is important in a blockchain network. Even I am inspecting the network, I am taking part in the blockchain as a partner in the P2P network. So we will discuss the different protocols behind the blockchain network. The three basic protocols behind blockchain network are mainly cryptography, P2P network, and game theory. So don't get confused by these words. Cryptography is nothing but, we already talked about sharing information among each other. But what happens if it gets into the hands of a wrong person, or an unauthorized entity? So the cryptography is the use of hashing functions in order to maintain transparency and privacy to a piece of shared information. So the information which is shared among the blockchain needs to be secured. So as the particular entities involved in the network which are authorized or which are having the right or having the need to know the information can easily understand what a cryptographic hashing is. I can explain you. It is moreover adding a layer of security to the current database system where data is cryptographically hashed in order to not get into the hands of wrong persons. That is the main protocol which is used in the blockchain. Now, the second protocol is P2P network or peer-to-peer network. It is nothing but a cluster of client machines connected to the same network. So, if hello,
Yes, sir.
Sir, you
Audible.
can continue.
okay, I heard some noise in between. That's all. Sorry. Okay, so P2P network defines that it is a cluster of machines like a normal machine. If I'm connected to the network, that network will be having many interconnected devices, and that is called a P2P network or peer-to-peer network. Then comes game theory. So we'll take an example of a chess game. In that chess, we have certain rules. For every object in the chessboard, we have particular rules for everyone. Only according to the rule, we will be able to play each and every coin or each and every object. A pawn is there, king is there, many things are there, queen. Yeah. So, like the rules in that particular game, we have certain rules in the blockchain also. These are rules which need to be followed while validating and making transactions to the mechanism to understand blockchain. While using a blockchain, we need to obey some rules or we need to understand the particular rules which need to be followed while validating and making transactions. So as I told you, we make transactions or entering, we make transactions and ledger entries to the database. That also have some particular rules. They are called game theory. In the coming session, we'll discuss what what types of consensus are there or what type of game theories are there. That we'll discuss in the coming sessions. So discussing about databases now, we have mainly three types of databases. That is centralized database. Like in a normal regular organization, the manager will be in control of, or the project manager will be in control of the whole database. And decentralized database is where no one have the control among each other. But as you can see in the figure, it's not properly distributed. The entire network should share the same copy of network. That is where the point and importance of blockchain comes. So by this small figure, this is only for reference. By this small figure, you can understand that by the first introductory line that I said, blockchain is a distributed, decentralized database system. So I can go to the previous slide. You can see over here, there is centralized database, decentralized database, and distributed database. So the blockchain is standing out with the feature that it is shared among everyone and it is also not controlled by any one of the network, making it decentralized. Now, I'm moving on to the session where we handle some technical terms that you must know while dealing with blockchain. For future references or future projects, you might be needing these particular terms which is present inside blockchain. The first and important term, as we said earlier, it is the game theory. So every blockchain will have a game theory behind it. In technical terms, it is known as consensus algorithm. It is a certain process that is used to achieve agreement on a single data value among a P2P network. So blockchain works on a P2P network, which is followed by some particular rules. As in the game of chess, we discussed there is some rules or there is some agreement. If I am trying to alter the rules, me and the opposite player can agree to that rules. That will be particularly played among us only. But there are some verified rules which are meant to be followed in the game of chess. Similarly, we have a process for achieving an agreement on a single data which is shared through the P2P network. So everyone, each and everyone participating in the P2P network need to follow the particular rules which are present in a consensus algorithm blockchain. So this is the important terminology in blockchain. And moving on to the next important one, which is hashing. Before explaining what is hashing, I can show you a example. I'll post a link in the Google Meet chat, so you can go directly to that website to understand in simple terms what is hashing. Everyone, please copy this link and try to enter that website. Is everyone with me? Everyone following me? Anyone, please respond. Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, I'm asking the participants to respond something that I know they are listening or they have visited the site, and then I can continue. That's it. Okay.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope you have entered this website. Now I'll be entering some text, some random text. See, I have entered a particular sentence over here, a short word or something, and respective hash string we have over here. So I am trying to say that there is a hashing algorithm used inside blockchain which helps us to protect it by passing whatever data we gave to the network through the algorithm to give us or to share that data with a protected algorithm. So I have entered a sentence and respective hash of my string that I am a trainer, that is for example only, that sentence is converted to the hash of some length. So if I try to change, you can note down this is ending with B486C. So if I try to change any letter or word or even a single alphabet, you can see the change over here. See, that particular sentence have only single change, but it is giving an entirely different output. So a hashing is a function that converts an input of letters and numbers into an encrypted output of fixed length. So if I try to enter the sentence that I have entered previously, it will give me the previous hash itself. So whatever we enter, it will go through that hashing algorithm, which is here taken as SHA-256. That is an hashing algorithm which is used in blockchain. Common hashing algorithm used. There are many types of hashing algorithm, which is SHA-1, SHA-512. Many important algorithms are present. Over here, by the example itself, you might be very clear that what a hashing algorithm is. Whatever data we enter into the blockchain, it is gone through the particular hashing algorithm written inside, and it will provide an output. That output will be shared among the blocks. So whatever person or whoever tries to open that, he need to decrypt that. So he might not be knowing what particular hashing algorithm is used. So that is a protective layer which is present inside blockchain. Okay. So hashing in simple terms, it is a function that converts an input of letters and numbers into an encrypted output of a fixed length. I showed you an example. I hope you have understood. Let's move on to the next concept or next terminology which is used inside blockchain, which is miner. A miner is a node on the network attempting to add new blocks to the blockchain. So don't worry, it is not a tough concept. A miner is whoever which is present among a P2P network who is trying to add new blocks or who is trying to verify transactions or add new blocks into the blockchain. But why would a person simply add data to it? In an organization or in a public blockchain, there are many types of blockchain available. The different types will be explained in the coming sessions. So in a normal blockchain or a normal database, why would someone enter data into it? It will be for their organization benefit, but also when it comes to public blockchain where anyone can inspect or enter data into it, there needs to be some differences or there needs to be some reward given to the data entering person. So we talked about an earlier example of a supply chain management. In that, if I'm contributing to the blockchain, that I'm saying that that parcel is particularly traveling on this route. Why I should say that? What is the purpose of accepting something from a common node? So I need to be rewarded with something, or I need to be having some benefit out of that. So that's where a miner plays an important role. A miner is a node on the P2P network attempting to add new blocks to the blockchain. As I said, they will be rewarded in terms of the currencies which are present inside the blockchain. Don't confuse anything with currency. I will explain that. In a public blockchain, there is some incentive mechanisms. If you enter some data into the network, you will get some incentives. So for that incentive, I need to enter a data, and that data needs to be validated by everyone in the network. Then only I will be rewarded. So we will discuss that later. What all mining algorithms are there, what all reward programs are there, why someone should add something or enter data into the blockchain. That will be discussed in the coming sessions. Just understand the terminology of a miner as a node on the network attempting to add new blocks to the blockchain. The next terminology is a node. We discussed a P2P network where devices are connected with each other. So why these devices are connected to each other? They can be connected to a central database or central server or something. But the concept of blockchain is it is a distributed, decentralized database. So a node is a small server that stores, updates, and broadcasts a full copy of the blockchain. So if I am the node of a blockchain, I am a single node of the blockchain, and many of you might be having systems which are connected to the same network. If I am having some data with mine, and the same copy of data will be broadcasted among the blockchain, so that each and every change if I am making in my data, that will be broadcasted to you, all of you. So that makes it distributed. And when it comes to P2P network, we represent or we explain a particular network, no, sorry, a particular device as a node. So there you have the brief description about node. Then comes Genesis block. So we already explained that blockchain is a chain of blocks where blocks are having data inside it. So the beginning of the block or the introduction of blockchain to the present world happened in the year of 2009, January 3 to be specific. It is by Bitcoin blockchain. It is where the birth of Bitcoin happened. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency which is present inside the Bitcoin blockchain. Genesis block is the first block on a blockchain. So whatever block was created on the year of 2009, it is initiated or it is introduced as the first block on a blockchain. There are many types of blockchain. Every blockchain will have a Genesis block. But for Bitcoin blockchain, the first block was generated or created on 2009, January 3. So that is the explanation of a Genesis block. Now, there exists a concept called Merkle tree. In the figure, you can see that a transaction array is there. Transaction A is there, transaction B is there, C is there, and D is there. So earlier we discussed the concept of hashing. So the hash of the transaction, whatever transaction I am making or me as a node is making, that transaction data is entirely converted into an hash. Whereas other nodes in the network might be doing some other transactions. That is also transferred or of transactions will be combined each other in a similar format such as in the figure. It is a basic concept of creating blockchain signatures, also hashing. It is called a tree because signatures are created from data and then combined with other signatures to create a new overarching signature. So here you can see the hash of transactions as hash AB. So there itself you can see a link of transactions while decrypting and hash B. So we can derive the transaction details in transaction A and transaction B by decrypting that. The tree in similar format goes on and can be seen as the mechanism used to chain blocks together on a blockchain. In the starting itself, we discussed the blockchain as a chain of blocks. So how are they connected? How are they connected to each other? There lies the answer for it. So a Merkle tree uses a concept of creating these hashing chains in order to form a blockchain. In this figure also, you can see the shape of a tree branch, of like a tree branch. And that's why the concept got its name as Merkle tree. Moving on to more sessions or more terminologies on blockchain, which is stale block. So what happens when, consider the example, if I am in a network, in a P2P network where we have a blockchain among us and somebody else, or say A transmits a data and I am also transmitting a particular data. What happens when both nodes or both nodes in the P2P network tries to add at the same time? So both nodes will be entering data into the blockchain, but also only single data or whatever reaches the nodes or whatever data reaches the whole P2P network will be only considered. The thing is, whenever a person is trying to add a block to the blockchain, any other particular person is also adding in the same time. But due to network latency or some other issues in the network, if that block is reaching the other nodes at the first place, that node is considering that block as a permanent block. But the other block which is already propagated or already broadcasted to the network at the same time will be considered as a stale block. But it might be also a valid block. Valid block means of considering of having valid transactional data in that. I might be having a valid transaction data. Other person will be also having valid transaction data. But that stale block is having some contents which is also valid. But what happens to that stale block, or what happens, as you can see in the figure, parent one, first block is having parent zero. That is another concept which have every block is connected to the previous block in the same blockchain. So if I'm writing a block in the field of 3, I will be considering the parent as 2. So the consecutive blocks creation will lead to simultaneous blocks which are created at the same time. So the block 2 and the stale block 2 is having a parent called 1. But what happens to the stale block? Those transactions will be again transmitted to the nodes so that it can be validated again. So no stale blocks, or according to the network speed, there are many blockchains and each blockchain won't be having the same speed among them, all of them. So that is the concept of stale block. Then comes the concept of orphan block. Orphan block means, consider the same example. If I am transmitting an entire block and that block is not recognizing its parent block. In the figure, you can see if the block 5 is transmitted by me and it is not recognizing its parent block, or it's not recognizing parent 3 or parent 4 as its parent, it is completely like a block received by a node that does not recognize the block's parent block. So the same process happens, that orphan block's contents will be again transmitted. If the entire block is lacking some previous block hash, it is again transmitted to the entire network so that it doesn't become an orphan block. Then comes the concept of uncle blocks. So as I said, the stale block happens on the Bitcoin blockchain. The Bitcoin blockchain process the blocks in a lesser rate, or in a slow rate. But when it comes to the Ethereum blockchain, the blockchain process blocks much faster than the Bitcoin blockchain. But that have a demerit of having two valid blocks being broadcasted simultaneously. So the uncle block concept lies in the Ethereum blockchain, whereas the stale block lies in the Bitcoin blockchain. That is the only difference between these two concepts. But because of the high rate of transmission in Ethereum blockchain, there is increased chance of having two valid blocks being broadcasted simultaneously to the network. So normally this leads to more uncle blocks, or it can be called as stale blocks when it comes to the Bitcoin blockchain. Now we have the basic protocol that we already discussed, which is a peer-to-peer network. It is a group of computers linked together with equal permissions and responsibilities for processing data. Unlike traditional client-server networking, no device in the P2P network are designated solely to serve or to receive data. So there are no particular rules for any particular node. Everyone will follow the same rules, will follow the same instructions to enter data into the blockchain network. The next concept is a public key. So what is a key? Or you might be having account password. Consider the example of a bank account. You might be having a account number, will be having a security password for your ATMs you will be having. So the same concepts in a blockchain. When it comes to blockchain, the public key is your wallet address and is needed by other entities to send messages or transactions. Among a P2P network, every node will be connected, but if I am ready to make a transaction to the network, that opponent network or node should share their public key so as I can make a transaction to him. Similarly, that private key is the key which is held by the owner, wallet owner, to sign the transactions also. If I am sending a transaction to another one in the blockchain, I need to know their private public key and sign that particular transaction with my private key. That is a process which need to be followed in the blockchain while making a transaction. Then moving on, as I told you, there is we discussed about Bitcoin blockchain, Ethereum blockchain. So you might be interested in knowing about the details of some of the public and private blockchains. There are mainly three types of blockchains. Number one is public. A public blockchain is a non-restrictive, permissionless network. Anyone who has access to the internet can sign in and become an authorized node. You already know what a node is. I can brief about that. A node or a user in the blockchain network is a part of that particular blockchain which is authorized to access current and past records. He can also verify transactions and do mining process. I hope you understood the concept. A public blockchain is an open blockchain which can be accessed by anyone in the network, or anyone can join the network and make transactions and validate transactions. An example for public blockchain I can say you is Bitcoin blockchain, Ethereum blockchain, and Litecoin blockchain. So these are the basic or main important examples for a public blockchain. Once again, a public blockchain is a non-restrictive, permissionless network. It is completely public. If you are trying to make a transaction in terms of Bitcoin, you can enter the Bitcoin network, you can see the transactions, you can see the history of transactions. That is where the public blockchain plays an important role. It is completely permissionless. Then comes a private blockchain. Consortium blockchain will discuss in the coming session. So then comes a private blockchain. So what is the point of using a private blockchain? We already discussed, among an organization which shares data among each other, needs their data to be protected, or only certain nodes which are authorized by the organization need to know the particular information or know about the transactions that are made in the network. The definition for private blockchain is, it is a restrictive or permissioned blockchain operative only in a closed network. In a working company, in an organization, if every employee and employer is a node in the network, they have access to the entire blockchain, entire private blockchain among the organization. They don't have particular role or important access regularities to anyone. They all have the same access. They can write into the blockchain. They can read past operations also. So the level of security, authorizations, permissions, and accessibility is in the hands of a controlling organization. The private blockchain are similar in use as a public network. That is because it have a small and restrictive network only, whereas public blockchain is completely permissionless. There is no need of taking permission from any one of the network, whereas private network is a restrictive or permissioned blockchain. The important examples for a private blockchain are, it is mainly enterprise initiatives like Hyperledger, and inside Hyperledger there are many umbrella projects like Fabric, Sawtooth, Indie, Aroha, and much more. So Hyperledger is the main example for a private blockchain. Then comes the hybrid one, or you can call it as a consortium blockchain. It have many of the same advantage of a private blockchain, but it operates under the leadership of a group instead of a single entity. So in the private blockchain, we discussed that it is implemented among a single organization. But when it comes to consortium blockchain, that can be initialized or established among multiple organizations. And that is the important point with consortium blockchain. It doesn't allow any person with access to the internet to participate in the process of verifying transactions. As you all know, it is kind of a private blockchain, but it have multiple organizations participating in it, so that it is spread across many same or similar organizations which need to share data among each other. An example for consortium blockchain is Corda. You can take the example of bank. So bank we have, for example, SBI, PNB. So many banks are there. Among them, data needs among the multiple branches of the same bank, like SBI is having many branches. A consortium blockchain can be implemented in SBI. This is for only example purposes. So a Corda blockchain is implemented by an enterprise technological company called R3. It leads an ecosystem of more than 300 firms working together to build distributed application on top of Corda for usage across industries such as financial services, insurance, healthcare, trade finance, and digital assets. So speaking of consortium blockchain, you might have got a simple idea what is a consortium blockchain. Consider the example as we spoke earlier, which is of banks. A single SBI bank will be having multiple branches. So those branches can be connected in a consortium blockchain so as they can share data and make transactions with each other privately and securely. So that is the definition of a consortium blockchain. Then comes the differences between a public, a private, and a consortium blockchain. When it comes to the anonymity factor, a public blockchain, when it comes to a public blockchain, anonymous persons won't be there. Everyone will be notified by their public address in a public blockchain network. In a public blockchain, transparency is also an important factor. A person entering into a public blockchain network can read the previous data, make record of the previous transactions. So that network is entirely transparent. And also that particular data are also immutable. If he is a part of that public blockchain network, it doesn't mean that he can change the past data and all. That data is particularly hashed and it is completely immutable. It can't be changed or anything. But speaking of the efficiency of the public blockchain networks, it is not much efficient. As we discussed the example of a Bitcoin blockchain where the blocks are being created in a low rate, the speed is low. So the efficiency of making transactions in a public blockchain is not much appreciated. Similarly, the confidentiality among a public blockchain is also less, since anyone with an internet access can enter into the public blockchain network and access the data. So there is no confidentiality at all. Now, taking the case of a private blockchain where the participating nodes are already known by the network, there is no particular anonymity inside the private blockchain. Similarly, transparency. Taking the example of an organization, transparency in the sense there is no need of making a private data in an organization. Everything need to be publicly available inside a private blockchain. That's the point. So in an organization, there is no transparency. Everything is available among the private blockchain itself. Then comes the immutability. So if you are implementing a private blockchain inside a organization where there are malicious nodes entering hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Audible, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So in a private blockchain where there exists some malicious network or malicious node, if he is already known as malicious, he doesn't need to be in the network. So immutability factor doesn't exist in a private blockchain. That means any node which enters the network can alter if he has access to the private network. That means he can also make changes to the network. But if there exists lot of malicious nodes or what do you call nodes which try to enter manipulated data into the network, there needs no need of blockchain. So the immutability factor in a private blockchain is absent. When it comes to the efficiency, so while making transactions in a private blockchain, it is much efficient. It is much more faster to process transactions. And so a private blockchain is very much efficient than a public blockchain. When it comes to confidentiality compared to the public blockchain, the private blockchain is having more confidentiality because it exists only among a particular organization and it only accepts or it already knows who all can join the network. The nodes each other knows their employees. So every node in the network is already known. So the confidentiality can be maintained. Now, when it comes to the other main blockchain, which is a consortium blockchain, as we took the example of an SBI and its branches, the anonymity factor is not there because the entities or the nodes in the network is already known. While taking the transparency factor, it is partially available since there is data being propagated among whole the network. That can be among multiple branches of a bank or the entire branches of a particular bank. But when it comes to immutability, there is a specialty of consortium, which is the data can be manipulated. That is, every branch is having their own data. If some branch is entering completely wrong data, other branches will be also having their copy of the data. So they can easily validate and reject their transactions. So immutable factor is an important when it comes to consortium blockchains. Speaking of efficiency factor also, it provides more efficiency when compared to public blockchain. As you know, it is present among a particular number of organizations. Data transmission speed and usage of that particular data sharing is much more important. When it comes to confidentiality factor also, the data is only shared among some particular organizations only. It is not public, it is not private, it is a consortium blockchain where many organizations are present, and the confidentiality is not much greater than the private blockchain. It is bit lesser than the private blockchain network when it comes to confidentiality factor. Now we can discuss the features of a blockchain. The features are immutable, decentralized, secure, distributed, and consensus. So some of the words you might be already familiar. Immutability means something that can't be changed or altered. This is one of the blockchain features that help to ensure that the technology will remain as it is, a permanent, unalterable network. So every node on the system has a copy of the digital ledger. To add a transaction, every node needs to check its validity. If the majority thinks it's valid, then it's added to the ledger. I'm speaking of the process of blockchain. Please listen. So I'll repeat it again. Every node on the system has a copy of the same digital ledger. To add transactions, every node need to check its validity. Then if the majority think it is valid, then only it is added to the ledger. This promotes transparency and makes it corruption proof. So without the consent from the majority of nodes, no one in the network can add any transaction block to the ledger. Ledger means the place where we enter data. When it comes to banks, it is an account passbook, you can say. So when it comes to blockchain, it is called as ledger. It is a regular term used for place where we enter data. Another fact that is, once the transaction block gets added on the ledger, no one can just go back and alter the information. Thus, any user on the network won't be able to edit, delete, or update it. So once entered into the blockchain, once a person entered a data into a blockchain, it is permanent, or it can be said as immutable. It can't be changed or altered. The next feature is decentralized. From the beginning itself, I have been saying that blockchain is a distributed, decentralized database system. So the entire network is decentralized, meaning it doesn't have any governing authority or a single person looking after the framework. No one is assigned the role of looking after the network. There is no particular role which exists for that particular person. Everyone is having the same power. Rather, a group of nodes maintain the network, making it decentralized. There is no particular group also. Everyone is maintaining the network, making it decentralized. This is one of the key features of blockchain technology that works perfectly. Users can store anything starting from cryptocurrencies. Wait. A cryptocurrency, just take it as a currency inside the blockchain. A blockchain can be used for transactional purposes of currencies. And the currency is denoted as cryptocurrency. The Bitcoin blockchain is having a cryptocurrency in the name of Bitcoin. And Ethereum blockchain is having a cryptocurrency in the name Ether. So these are the two main important cryptocurrency. Please note that. And as we spoke, users can store anything starting from cryptocurrency, important documents, contracts, or other valuable digital assets. So when it comes to banks, it might be transactions. When it comes to other public organization, it might be documents. When it comes to governmental organization, it might be contracts or digital assets. So, and with the help of blockchain, you will have direct control over them using your private key only. So concluding this feature of decentralized structure, it gives the common people their power and rights back on their particular assets. So the decentralized feature gives the common people their power and rights back on their assets. Then comes enhanced security. We already discussed that it have no central authority. And no one can just simply change any characteristics of the network for their benefit. It is playing only according to the rule of the particular blockchain. So using encryptions like hashing ensures another layer of security for the system. It offers so much security compared to already existing technologies because it offers a special disguise called cryptography. We already discussed what a cryptography, P2P network, and a game theory is. Again, I'll briefly explain what is a cryptography. Cryptography is a rather complex mathematical algorithm that acts as a firewall for attacks. Every information on the blockchain is hashed cryptographically. In simple terms, the information on the network hides the true nature of the data. That means in the example we saw, I typed, I'm a trainer. So it was translated to another word or another number of another string, which doesn't have a meaning. But when we decrypt that particular hash, or we understand that particular hashing algorithm, we get the original data. We already did that process where any input data that we gave gets through a mathematical algorithm that produces a different kind of value. But the length is always fixed that you saw in that particular example. You could think that it is a unique identification for every data, that whatever data we enter into that hashing algorithm, it gives a specific output with a fixed length. All the blocks in the ledger come with a unique hash of its own and contains the hash of previous block. So why cryptography is important in the sense, it means that if a block is entered into the blockchain, it will be connected to the previous block with their particular hashes. That is how blockchain is formed. So changing or trying to tamper with the data will mean changing all the hash IDs. If I need to alter some data, I might need to change all the data up to date. And that's kind of impossible in the blockchain network. Since even though if I'm altering the network by any means, editing, wrapping, whatever it is, altering, every node need to accept it. So when my malicious data enters the network, every node in the network gets a copy of that. But they know already what particular transactions have been happening in the network. So when they doubt that transaction, they reject it. Similarly, everyone in the node knows the same copy of blocks are being propagated. They know whenever a malicious block comes to their blockchain, they will easily reject it. That this block is not according to the rules, that this block is trying to alter the network. They will get automatically notified, such that that particular block which is incoming will not be having any hashes of the previous block. So they will easily identify that and reject it. The hashing process is kind of irreversible. The main protection layer is hashing. Hashing is quite complex and it is impossible to alter or reverse it. We share our public key among each other, and someone else can't just take that public key and come with our private key. Private key is only the property of every individual, every node in the network. Also, a single change in the input could lead to a completely different ID. We already saw that example where I changed a single letter, and that entirely changed the hash of that particular sentence. If someone want to corrupt the network, he or she would have to alter every data stored on every node in the network. That is already discussed, and it is kind of impossible. There could be also millions and millions of people where everyone has the same copy of the ledger. Accessing and hacking millions of computers is the next to impossible, and it is much costly. As it's too hard to bypass, you don't have to worry about hackers taking all your digital assets from you. So this means that whatever data you're providing to the blockchain, you don't need to worry about another hacker taking it and using it. It is particularly hashed with some algorithm, so as they only have the right to verify it. This is a valid data and they have the right to verify it. So that makes the system or the hashing algorithm irreversible. The next feature of blockchain is distributed. Usually a public ledger will provide every information about a transaction and the participant. Although the case for a private blockchain is a bit different, in those cases, many people can see what really goes on in the ledger. In case of a public blockchain, every node can know what is happening inside the blockchain. So that's because the ledger on the network is maintained by all other users on the system. So that distributed feature will always be a higher efficient ledger system that can take on the traditional database system. So these are having many features like decentralized, immutable, secure by hashing algorithms, distributed. Then why this is distributed? Why it can't be in a central database or a central node? That is the importance of blockchain. No one can make any malicious changes. There is no ownership for any of the nodes or any of the data. No extra favors to any of the nodes. There is no particular role that you can edit a particular block. Every block is propagated through every node, and each node can validate the particular data. And it is very quick. Since if I try to enter a message in our chat, in our Google Meet chat, it is kind of a distributed. I enter a message and you all get the same message. So that's the concept of distributed. Then comes the main game theory, which is either described as consensus. Every blockchain has a consensus to help the network make decisions. In simple terms, the consensus is a decision where the group of nodes active on the network agrees to. Here, the nodes can come to an agreement quickly and relatively faster. Whenever I am trying to join a blockchain network, I need to agree to the consensus. I need to agree the rules of the blockchain network. Then only I can read the transactions or make new transactions into the blockchain. When millions of nodes, as we discussed, are validating a particular single transaction, a consensus is absolutely necessary for a system to run smoothly. As you all know, if I'm making a transaction, if that is valid, how do you know that is valid? So I will be already making that transaction according to the rules of the consensus or according to the rules of the blockchain. So every node in the network will know the consensus and can easily validate if my transaction is abiding or following the rules of the blockchain. That is how every person validate my transaction. What happens if I'm not transacting or if I'm not making a transaction apart from following the rules of consensus? Immediately the entry that I made gets distributed and every node in the network knows that it is not entered according to the consensus. So they easily reject the transaction. So nodes might not trust each other, but they can trust the algorithm that run at the core of it. That is consensus mechanism. That's why every decision on the network is a winning scenario for the blockchain. However, to keep the decentralization going, every blockchain must have a consensus algorithm, or else the core value of it is lost. So that is marked as important over here. Consensus mechanism is the most important feature or a property which needs to be followed by every node in the blockchain network. Now we can discuss the features or the evolution of a particular blockchain network. I already discussed about you that Bitcoin blockchain is having a Bitcoin cryptocurrency inside it, whereas Ethereum blockchain network is having Ether cryptocurrency inside it. So how do that evolved into cryptocurrencies and transactions only? The main evolution happened where blockchain technological aspirants made it into two evolution like cryptocurrency networks and enterprise networks. A cryptocurrency network is the main intention of the network is to introduce cryptocurrencies that work as same as the currency that we use in the common world like rupees, dollars, etc. The main ideology behind cryptocurrency network is that the transactions need to be validated before making it public. The transaction made or the transaction data which is entered into the blockchain need more validation from all the network so that we know that it is a valid transaction and not a fake transaction. The idea raised because there is a concept called double spending. Take the example of two individuals. They are planning to make a transaction with each other in terms of cryptocurrency or normal currency. If I am giving the word to the other person that I will give you 10 rupees, for example, 10 rupees I will give you the next day. And he already knows that I will be giving him 10 rupees. Meanwhile, I am making that 10 rupee transaction to another person. So I already gave a word to one person, which is not yet initialized. The real 10 rupees was transferred to another person. So the first person which I talked to or gave a word to already thinks that he will get the 10 rupees tomorrow. So my money that is 10 rupees is considered as double spending. I tried to hand it over to the first person and I officially transferred that to another person. That is the concept of double spending. To reduce the concept of double spending or the theory of double spending, the Satoshi Nakamoto, a person in that alias, initialized the technology called blockchain. And he initiated the Bitcoin blockchain for making cryptocurrency transactions inside the Bitcoin blockchain. So the Bitcoin blockchain is completely or entirely for tracking and recording the Bitcoin blockchain or the Bitcoin cryptocurrency transactions. The cryptocurrencies have only a digital life and can be only used on a digital network. Examples I have already discussed, which is a Bitcoin and an Ethereum blockchain. So these blockchain are having a cryptocurrency called Bitcoin and Ether respectively. These are used to process transaction without the use of any central organization like a bank. So even though I am making a valid transaction with cryptocurrency, there is no need of any intermediary like a bank to verify my transaction. Already nodes among the network is knowing that I am transferring that 10 rupees to the other person, so that they will validate the transaction by checking my balance, that if I'm having 10 rupees, whether if I'm having 10 rupees or not, whether if I am a valid node in the network following the consensus, and I am making the transaction on a set date and time. So the other nodes will be checking that transaction by checking my balance and date and time. So moving on, that particular transaction, when it gets validated that I have the particular balance, it will be automatically transferred to the other person. That is, whenever I make a transaction request, the entire node in the network will get to know my transaction request, since the same copy is broadcasted among the network. So whenever I try to make a transaction, the entire nodes in the network verify my transaction request and verify and consider it as valid. So then only there lies a transaction where I transfer 10 rupees to the other person. That is the important evolution, which is cryptocurrency networks. The main intention of this network is to introduce cryptocurrencies that work the same as common currencies such as rupees, dollars, etc. The next evolution which happened was enterprise networks. Enterprise use the networks for record keeping and many other purposes. We discussed of public blockchain, private blockchain, and a consortium blockchain. So easily you can define what a cryptocurrency network is. A cryptocurrency network will be mainly a public blockchain network, since everyone have the right to enter into a network and make transactions. Whereas enterprise network comes or narrows into the concept that it exists only among organization or a particular single organization The examples are Hyperledger, R3 Corda, and all. Hyperledger was initialized for particularly enterprise data transmission, record keeping, and much more. So hope you understood the evolution, how it happened or how it evolved into the public blockchain, private blockchain, and consortium blockchain. This is how the blockchain technology evolved into cryptocurrency networks and enterprise networks. Moving on to the layers of a blockchain network. What all layers are present inside the blockchain? See, I have already discussed. There is a ledger keeping the transaction. There is what do you call? There is a network among the blockchain. So we will discuss the layers of a blockchain network. Here we have mainly 5 layers in the blockchain network. First of all, we have the UI, user interface or application layer. This layer is the front end of the application and runs the entire network. It interacts with the rest of the layers. So take the example of any application where you use the mobiles. In every application, there is an interface for that, where you can access data, you can see the data and all. The rest of the layers are interface layer. It is a set of APIs, application program interfaces, that are used to communicate with the blockchain and get the required result, such as retrieval of data, the addition of data, etc. So whatever data we needs from the blockchain, it is fetched by the APIs. Every blockchain will have APIs written so that it gets the particular details from the blockchain to your application layer. Then comes the important layer, which is a logic layer. So every transaction made into a blockchain or among the network needs to be following some logic or need to have some logic that is shared among all and that is accepted by everyone in the network. So the logic layer forms the business logic of the network and ensures that network follows all the rules and regulations that govern the blockchain network. So the logic layer will be having the consensus mechanisms where every node in the network will participate in the particular blockchain network according to that rules and regulations only. Now moving on, the ledger layer. It forms the base of the blockchain network and constitute of blocks, also known as ledger, that holds the transaction data. So where it stores the data, whoever node is entering the network, blockchain network, that network is sharing a particular set of data, and that data is entered in ledgers. So every node in the network shares their hardware capacity layer or the capacity of their system to accept the entire blockchain nodes or the transaction data. So there lies the ledger layer in the blockchain network. Now, when it comes to the hardware layer, is there any hardware required? Yes. For every blockchain, if we need to enter the blockchain, we need a hardware. So the hardware layer can be a cloud or a server that hosts the entire network. There needs to be some hosting environment where data is shared among everyone and new nodes can be entered. So all these layers together form the blockchain network, and users can have different set of capabilities or application that they use over the network. So these are the main 5 layers of a blockchain network, which is, again, I will repeat, UI or application layer, which forms the front-end application and interacts with the rest of the layers. Whereas the interface layer, it is a set of APIs which is used to communicate with the blockchain and get the required results. According to the logic layer, it forms the business logic of the network and ensures that all the network participants follow all the rules and regulations that govern the blockchain network. Then ledger layer. It forms the base of the blockchain network and constitutes of blocks, also known as ledger, that holds the transaction data. So every data entered by any node in the network goes to the ledger layer, which can be accessed through the interface layer by APIs and viewed through the application layer. So that is the main theories that we discussed by today's class. Hope you all understood the session. Now you can raise your questions, doubts regarding today's session. In the next session, we'll go into details of Bitcoin blockchain network, what are nodes, and some theories inside the blockchain. So with today's session, I'm expecting good results, and your reviews, your doubts, you can ask right now. We have almost half an hour left. You can share your doubts. I can clear it right now itself. So shoot your doubts.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now the session is over. We move on to the question and answer session. So I would request the participants to unmute yourself and ask the questions. If you have any query, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session. Concepts have been explained so nicely. Really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, which Indian wallet using blockchain system? Like Amazon Pay and Paytm, like that?
No, sir. Cryptocurrencies don't work like that. It can be only traded or made through a wallet of cryptocurrencies that is only particularly used among blockchain networks. You can't use Amazon Pay for making transactions in a blockchain network, since Amazon Pay doesn't have the ability to control Bitcoin cryptocurrency and all. So there is particular wallets or trading platforms for that particular usages.
But it shows hash kind of things, hash string. So is it a kind of blockchain?
No, sir. Hashing algorithm means the data is transmitted among some particular nodes, right? Or when it comes to the public blockchain, it is transmitted among everyone. So whenever the data needs to be secure, or all the data needs to be secure throughout the network, so every data is hashed through a particular algorithm, so as anyone can just come and validate that data. That is the main use of hashing algorithm.
So thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Got it.
I can see a doubt over here by Nitisha Tiwari. So what is the difference between Bitcoin and Ether? Okay, Bitcoin and Ether are the main cryptocurrencies which exist in Bitcoin blockchain and Ethereum blockchain. So they are the cryptocurrencies that exist over there, which is distributed to the nodes who have validated according to the consensus. I hope I'm clear. Any further doubts?
So one more question from Sumit Kumar, sir.
Yeah.
Which programming language used in blockchain?
Okay, so for writing a blockchain, like we have many languages. The current updation in blockchain code writing is continuously updating day by day. So as of now, Ethereum blockchain smart contracts or consensus mechanisms are written in JavaScript language or can be written in R language. Many languages can be used. There is no particular language which can be used inside a blockchain. You can use up to your own skills and skill sets. And explain again orphan block and an uncle block. Okay, so what happens to the first of all, stale block is a block which is being propagated at the same time, and only one of the block is propagated among all the nodes to be validated, because the other block might be having the same speed, but due to network latency and all, that might be considered as a stale block. But the transactions inside it will be again distributed among every network and to be validated. So that is a stale block, and it is present in the Bitcoin blockchain. And when we discuss the concept of uncle block, it is the concept in Ethereum blockchain. So as we discussed earlier, Ethereum has a higher transaction rate, so that the probability of happening of uncle blocks is much more higher. That means more probability to occur the case of uncle blocks. Orphan block is a thing that whenever a new block is added, it doesn't recognize, or due to the lack of network speed, it doesn't recognize the parent of that particular block. So whoever transaction block which have no parent or doesn't recognize the parent block is considered as an orphan block. The transactions inside the orphan block are again transmitted among the network to get it verified. We don't know whether the particular transaction in that block is valid or not. So the blockchain automatically transmits again all the transaction in that particular orphan block to the node, entire nodes itself, and gets it again verified. So that's the thing happening between an orphan block and an uncle block. The stale block results in transaction declined or failed. No. The stale block is also having valid transactions, but it doesn't meet the network requirements or network speed requirements. So it is delayed by some time, and it fails to reach the nodes, so that again all the transaction is propagated among each other again. Okay, that doubt is cleared. Name the types of record which are present in blockchain. Records.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, one more doubt by Smith Kumar is name the types of records which present in blockchain. Records in the sense, take the example of Bitcoin blockchain. It stores only the transaction details of Bitcoin blockchain. Okay, or the Bitcoin cryptocurrency transactions. It is only storing the data of Bitcoin cryptocurrency transactions. Whereas Ethereum nowadays, developers or blockchain enthusiasts are making use of Ethereum blockchain to adapt the same technology and make other use of the records and make their own private Ethereum blockchains also, where there is no mining and all. So they can make use of the protocol behind Ethereum blockchain. That is the different types of record which are present in the blockchain. Okay, any more doubts? Shoot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your profound knowledge with us. Your session was full of zeal and valuable information. We would also wholeheartedly thank our participants for their patient hearing. Feedback link is already shared in the chat box. Kindly fill before leaving the session. If you have any doubt, you can also ask in the chat box. And one more announcement, another session of blockchain technology is scheduled today at 2 p.m. I request all the participants to attend the session. I guess nobody is having